Forget about Godzilla or King Kong. No disrespect to those creatures. They're amazing creatures in their own right, and those movies are amazing. But sauropod dinosaurs were the literal living kaiju of this earth. You know, creatures so big, they were as big, heavy, and as tall around as small buildings. Now, it's been really cool lately to see a lot of sauropod interest on the internet. Twitter being one of those places where I've found a lot of information. And I'd like to think that Prehistoric Planet 1 and Prehistoric Planet 2 have something to do with this renewed interest in sauropods. And lately, there's been the interest of how big could they get. And there's been some new studies that are currently out. And some people are hypothesizing that sauropod dinosaurs could get as large as blue whales. Now, if this in fact turns out to be true, this is truly startling news, you know, to think of something that large moving about on land. And I'm even linking a YouTube video in the comment section down below by the Vividan, an amazing dinosaur channel if you like such content, where he discusses a Indian sauropod that is only known from the remains in photographs. And the animal goes by the name of Fangorn. At least that's what he's calling it, after the character in Lord of the Rings. I think it may actually even be after the Fangorn Forest in Lord of the Rings. So very cool name, and it's believed that this Indian sauropod, this massive animal, may have gotten upwards of 120 tons. Now, online there is also information, primarily on YouTube. There's more information about how big could sauropods get, and a lot of people have run calculations on how big they think, you know, certain species could have got. The main one problem now is that there's just so few remains of certain sauropod species. You know, think about the human species. If somebody were to dig up humans a couple thousand years from now and they found a skeleton of Tom Cruise, not trying to be mean to Tom Cruise, but 5'7" versus Shaquille O'Neal at 7'1", 350 pounds, where would they draw the line? You know, if they only found the Tom Cruise skeleton and a few other people around that size, would it be accurate to say that that's how big humans were? Or if they happen to find a couple, or maybe even just one skeleton of Shaq, is it accurate to say that that's how big humans are? So I think the main problem we have now is just not enough individuals in order to calculate an average size. Well, the Vividan down in the comments section, linked to his video, did do some recent studies, and he came up with, you know, a good example would be Argentinosaurus, where he placed it at about 75 tons. Now, more remains need to be found of all these animals before we can probably accurately say how big an average species got. But I think the one thing that I like to think about is the fact that each one of these species would have had giants. It happens. There are giants in the current animal community. There's always outliers that are going to be massive compared to what a normal, you know, animal or dinosaur would have been. You know, what's a good estimate for how big humans are? You can go online and look up, you know, the average height of a man, the average height of a woman, and I guess that can be what we represent humans as. And even when we see those numbers, we know that there are people that are larger, people that are smaller. So there's going to be variations. But nonetheless, it's been very exciting to see just a lot of renewed interest in sauropods and just how big they could have gotten. Now, one study says that the largest land animal could be 600 tons. Now, obviously, nothing that large has been discovered, but this scientist had been proposing that he believed that a animal could reach that size range. Now, once again, nothing has ever been discovered even close to that, and I don't think an animal could be 600 tons. Even an animal in the ocean, I don't know about 600 tons. That's probably not believable, but if it were to approach even 150 tons, you know, the question has to be, why would an animal need to get that big? And obviously, if there was a 600-ton herbivore out there, the amount of food that it would need to eat would simply be unreal. You know, it would require an entire forest. It would decimate its ecosystem. There just would be nowhere on Earth that could support a small population of these. So I think 600 tons is a little bit ludicrous, but I think this person was just trying to get at how big they think bones and gravity and all that, and the pressure on the heart, how big something could get on land. Now, again, we go back to some of these unknown sauropods. This sauropod Fangorn from India is only known from pictures. So, but there does appear to be in India some very, very large sauropods out there. So hopefully in time we can know more about this. But just know that there's this real renewed interest online for how big sauropod dinosaurs could get. And I'm really pumped for it. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really going to be excited to see what we think these animals could push. Now, it's also possible to believe that we haven't even found the largest species out there. So there's also that conundrum. So there's the conundrum of, if we, in the current species that we found of sauropods, how do we know how big any of those animals could get with such small populations? There's also the other aspect of it, that how do we even know that we've even found the biggest sauropod, and if we ever will? What if it's possible that the biggest sauropod ever was just not preserved? So there's that to think about. So I hesitate to always say that's the biggest animal of all time, the biggest dinosaur, biggest sauropod. But that's what headlines like to do. You know, we're living in a clickbait society. Biggest dinosaur of all time discovered. We like to see things like that. I really hesitate saying definitively, because it's from the ancient past. We cannot go back. And if it was not fossilized, then we're simply not going to know about it. But we definitely can look at some of the animals that we have now and think 75, 80 tons, maybe even 100 tons. Again, this sauropod from India, Fangorn, is proposed to be at 120 tons. And there are some estimates that put it at maybe 150 tons. So this brings us to the most important part of the video, your comments. Really love to hear them. I don't really care about likes on this video. I just would love to hear your thoughts on this. How big do you think the biggest sauropods could get as far as tons go? Love to hear your thoughts. See you in the next video. Appreciate the support.